Greetings. It is me, Madam Carmen, and we're here again for another BDSM 101. This one is about, drum roll please, hold on, drum roll please. This one is about, finally, self-negotiation. Okay, so with negotiation, the whole negotiation process, I split this particular lecture or lesson or class or course, whatever you want to call it, I split this in two parts. The reason why I split this in two parts is because it is too long and extensive and detailed to explain why it's important to negotiate with self before you negotiate with others. This is imperative. Self-negotiation is imperative to the growth and the development of you being a part of any interaction or engagement, whether it is a BDSM exchange, a kinky exchange, or just a vanilla exchange, or personal sex like exchange. It's all encompassing. Self-negotiation is knowing that you have the rights to your autonomy, what that looks like for you. We can have the right to our autonomy. We do have the right to our autonomy, but how do we advocate for ourselves prior to play, prior to engaging with other folks? This is where we need to establish our list of kinks, limits, and fetishes. So today we're going to talk about self-negotiation. If you're enjoying the information and the lessons, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate you all's support. Now let's get into it. So one of the best and most beneficial ways that you can prepare for any interaction or engagement or exchange with another person or persons is to establish list. So not only establishing your list of things that you're into, your turn-ons, but a list of things that turn you off, that are absolute no-nos, that are your boundaries, your limitations. Remember, in all of the past and previous conversations that we've had, I tell you how important it is for us to negotiate these things. And negotiation isn't necessarily you telling me something that you don't like and me saying, okay, I won't do it, but I'm gonna try to do it can we do it for 5 minutes? Like, that's not the negotiation process. The negotiation process is establishing what is about to happen in the exchange. This is not for us to bargain with someone's list. This is not for us to try to manipulate somebody through testing out their boundaries. If a person says, I don't like being choked, there is no, okay, so you don't like being choked, but can I put my hands around your neck and squeeze it a little bit for just 5 minutes? If they specifically said that they don't like being choked, you can ask more questions as far as like, you know, at all, if it's all the way off limits, there is no room for discussion in that process of someone expressing their boundaries and expressing their limits. There is no room for negotiating after that. It's set in stone until they choose to change that or make alterations to that otherwise. But until then, it is important for us to respect the boundaries of each other. Respect your own boundaries. If you want your own boundaries to be respected, then you respect others. That's how treat others how you want to be treated. This is what we learned in kindergarten. If these things are not discussed, an exchange would be a cesspool of violations.
Ew. Respectfully.
Because if it's not discussed, how do you know what a person likes and doesn't like? Are we just is it gonna be trial and error? Are we just gonna test the waters and just test the ropes and just throw ourselves out there and just do everything and anything? And if that were the case, Are we even checking in to make sure that this person is even consenting to this?
What are we doing?
Consent is a very vital part of negotiation. But while we're talking about negotiation, like I said, we're speaking on self-negotiation first. I will do the negotiation process later, and we will go over that together at a much later time. Not a much later time, but after this. BDSM and kink, and like I said, any personal intercourse or sexual or intimate exchange with someone is wonderful experience for you to have, but we have to pack and plan accordingly. We need to know what we need to be bringing and how to prepare for said exchange. So it's important for scenes to be discussed, negotiated, and consented to. Not just one of the three, but all of the three. So before the kinking and mingling begins, we need to establish a list of limits. Now, there are two types of limits. Actually, technically, there are way more types of limits than just the two, but we're going to just focus on these two types of limits, which are hard limits and soft limits. Hard limits are absolute no-nos. Those are the red flags that you are waving. Hey, this is an absolute no-no. This is intolerable. I am not participating in this. Soft limits are activities that you may have not explored yet, and you may be open to them, but you aren't quite sure if you like them or not. That is a type of soft limit. Another soft limit is having slight limitations on certain acts, meaning there are certain limitations on specific types of impact play, on specific types of processes of asphyxiation or breath play. So it is important for us to establish what those mean for us. Soft limits are open for change, open to evolve, or open to become a hard limit. If I have never experienced breath play with someone and I try it and I like it, then it can possibly become a kink or a fetish. If I try it and I absolutely abhor it, don't like it, then it becomes a hard limit, which means that we're never going down that route again. This is where that train stops. It's also important for you to reflect on any past traumas that may surface or resurface or trigger you during an exchange. This also helps us establish those list of limitations. If you have practiced or participated in breath play and your experience was not quite what you thought it would be, or you didn't really enjoy it, and because it gave you flashbacks of a past experience with someone else, then it is important to express that. Even if asphyxiation play or breath play is completely off the table, it is still important for us to have an understanding as to what could possibly traumatize you, what could possibly trigger you, or cause any negative thoughts through the exchange. Sometimes we may not even know what these things are for us to list, and we learn as we go. That is okay, which is why checking in is important, which is why safety protocols are important. If someone has never participated in breath play and they start participating and engaging with a partner, and that partner puts their hands around their neck while they're playing with them or having an exchange, and that person is triggered by that act, it is important for that person to advocate for themselves by calling out their safety word or their safety word protocol. Red on the neck, please get your hands off my neck. And it's the person who was actually doing it or performing it or the top to oblige, to actually respect that boundary and that limit. Even if it wasn't discussed before, which is why lists are important, because then we can go through that list and maybe that person actually is into breath play and they say, hey, on my list of kinks, on my list of fetishes, I have breath play, meaning I love to give breath play, because giving and receiving can be on various lists. It doesn't necessarily mean that this person who enjoys receiving breath play or giving breath play likes the latter, likes the other. You know, like if a person loves to receive it, doesn't mean that they love to give it, and vice versa, right? So it's important for us to communicate all of this stuff prior to any exchange, which is why these lists are so freaking important. I cannot stress it enough. I say it so much. It's so redundant. This is why we're having this class now, because I really feel like it's important for us to understand why I stress negotiation in every aspect of everything. This gives you the opportunity as a human to advocate for yourself and know what you like, learn what you like, establish what you don't like, and know what you don't like. Know what you're open to and may not be open to. Know what your limits are on impact, on bruising, and all of those different things. Like I said, there's so many different types of limitations. We're only going to be mostly discussing soft limits and hard limits in this particular class. As I mentioned earlier, you may not have a clue or an idea what your limits are. You may be new to the community and have no idea like where to start. I always say, if you've been sexually active before and you know that you've had a bad experience during that exchange, that, you know, moment of intercourse or intimacy, even if it's outer course, even if it's just foreplay, any moment or exchange or intimate exchange with another human, and you know that there's a history of you feeling triggered or traumatized by a certain act, that goes on your list. Even if you don't expect for it to be something that you participate in during your BDSM or kink and fetish exchange, it's still important to list it, because these lists can also be used when you are establishing intimate connections with people even outside of the BDSM and kink lifestyle. This is a very general and effective way for us to be able to advocate for ourselves and continue promoting us having a voice. So as long as we voice what it is that we like and we don't like, then you are really upholding the responsibility of your autonomy. Since I'm more experienced in this lifestyle, I'm well aware of the things that turn me off and turn me on. Now, seeing as that I am aware of the things that turn me off and turn me on, I will share my list with potential play partners. If they have no list, we cannot play until they establish one. Even if it's 4 things, my list is my kink and my fetish list are pretty extensive. My limitation list, it fluctuates. There are things that I've added to my list of limitations, whether it's soft limits or hard limits, and you can differentiate the two. But on that list, because of things being on the soft limit list, it may evolve and be transferred to the list of kinks, or it may become a fetish over time. I'm not sure until, you know, I gain that experience and have that moment to be able to practice it and get a feel of it. But I'm well versed in establishing my limits and my kinks and my fetishes. It is important for me to help and assist the best way I possibly can with my potential play partners on what theirs look like. It helps us. It's like our way that we're going to communicate without having to communicate throughout the whole scene. But it helps to keep the flames burning and the intimacy flowing without always having to say, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? It's okay when it's something new and you're playing with someone new. That is okay to do the check-ins. But if that list is there, use it. You won't have to ask, can I touch your breast? That could be on their list. That's a big no-no. So you don't even have to ask. So it's important for us to advocate for ourselves, but also assist in others advocating for themselves. Establishing kinks and limits aren't a formal contract. This is not something that you can go and get notarized at your local bank. This is something that helps when you're navigating in this lifestyle, or just navigating in your intimate navigating with your intimate experiences. It helps to be able to have something to share with someone that is unfamiliar with what you like and what you don't like. Scenes should always take place in an environment that is comfortable for everyone involved. So this can be a part of your list of limits and kinks and whatnot. You may feel more comfortable in a bedroom scene versus a dungeon style environment. Or you may feel more comfortable in a private room versus a public space, whether it's a play party, orgy, any of those different things. It is important for us to understand that, we establish that and we have an understanding of what makes us comfortable, what helps us become comfortable to where we are willing to exchange that sense of vulnerability in that power exchange or in that topping and bottoming scene. Documenting all of your kinks and limits also is a great way to keep track of your growth and your evolution within this lifestyle. Like I said, there were once things that were soft limits for me that are now kinks for me. And that's really cool. I still have certain elements of limitations within those particular kinks, but it is definitely on the kink list because it is something that I participate and I enjoy participating in. It may not be a fetish. It may not be something that is required during a scene for me to bring me to that orgasmic explosion or release, but it is something that I have become turned on by. Limits are not specific to the S-type or the bottom. Tops and doms have limitations too, and it's really important for them to have those limitations because it shows leadership and initiative when establishing a dynamic with a potential play partner. And when it comes to establishing your list of limitations, it is also important to establish the list of limitations of different implements and materials and stuff like that used. Also things that you're allergic to. If we are participating in an exchange that potentially or possibly needs lube, it is important for me to know if you have any allergies to nuts, or you prefer hybrid or water-based or silicone-based lubes, oil-based lubes. It's so many. The extent of chemicals and materials used to make and produce lube is extensive. And it is important for us to learn to become more aware of what we are using on our bodies, in our bodies, around our bodies. Like I said, someone could have a nut allergy and you're using coconut oil, or you enjoy coconut oil. So maybe it's important for us to have an alternate lube when you're playing with this particular person. Almond oil is also a nut oil. So it's important to discuss, have those lists. If you are aware of what you could possibly or potentially be allergic to or having a reaction to, make that list, add that to your list. Hey, I'm just letting you know right now, I have a sunflower allergy. They're like, oh, I may not be using sunflowers. Yeah, but you may gift me sunflowers during the aftercare process or when we're potentially, courting each other or whatever. It's important for us to know these things, So the coordination of this time to establish all of these things with someone, with the potential play partner, that is called the negotiation process. I know. Self-negotiation is what we're focused on. But the reason why we are self-negotiating, which means we're negotiating with ourselves, do I like this? Don't I like this? Do I love this? Don't I love this? Does this hurt me? Do I like to be hurt? Maybe I don't like that implement. Maybe I like a flogger instead of a whip. Maybe I like a paddle instead of a riding crop. Maybe I like heavy hits with hands. Do I like scratches? Do I like pinches? Do I like bites? Maybe I don't like bites. Maybe I don't want any markings on my body. This is all you discussing things within yourself to just have an idea and grasp what it is that you could potentially and possibly get yourself into. Remember, when I mentioned and I spoke about soft limits, these could potentially become kinks. They're not specifically considered kinks until that person has consented to altering and changing their own list. You don't determine that for them. They determine that for themselves. You can assist, you can help. You can say, I love for my feet to be, I love foot fetishes. Do you mind if I suck your toes? And then it may not be something that they have experienced before. So you are their first experience to this particular act. And you better do good if you want them to like it. If you want them to be into it, you better do a damn good job sucking on those toes.
Just suck on my fat toes.
The big toe preferably. That's just me. It may not be that for them. But it may be too ticklish. Some people are ticklish at the feet, and some people don't like to be tickled. So it may become a hard limit. And you have to respect that. I don't care how much of an oral fixation you have for putting toes in your mouth and throat, fucking your own mouth with someone's foot.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on, guys.
It is now a hard limit, and you respect that boundary. If it is something that you consider a fetish and you must have that in an exchange, that is where we communicate what we're going to do in this relationship. Are we going to continuously pursue a dynamic or an exchange with one another, knowing the fact and considering the fact that your fetish is my hard limit? Or are we going to find something else that we can participate in? What are we going to be doing now? And we should do this amicably. Am I saying that right? Amicably. I don't know. We should do this together and have a mutual conversation and a mutual exchange about what's about to happen moving forward. What can potentially happen moving forward. Maybe that person says, you know what, this may not work out for me. I really need someone who is really into getting their feet worshipped and sucked and toes, sucked on and soles bitten and nibbled on a little bit, whatever. Yeah. The things that I kind of like. But I also understand that some people are still open to exchanging in different ways outside of just that. They may, find someone else that they can have that foot exchange with and play and do everything else with you. It just all depends on what you guys communicate and what you guys agree to. This is why we're talking about the negotiation process. Hey, negotiation process. So regardless of anyone's role in this exchange, their boundaries are just as important, no matter what their role is. A submissive's boundaries are important. A bottom's boundaries are important. A rope rigger, a top, a dom, a femdom, a femdom, a master, a serv. It doesn't matter what your role is. Your limitations are validated, and they should be validated, and throughout any scene that you agree to and consent to participate in. So I want people to understand that, like I said, kinks are turn-ons. Fetishes are what bring you into that orgasmic release, that orgasmic pleasure. What brings you to that sense of arousal that you feel like you have to have. Some people like their nipples played with, and that is a fetish for them, because in order for them to have an orgasm, they have to have their nipples played with. That would not be considered a kink for them. It would be considered a fetish for them. Even though it may be a kink for you, it's definitely a fetish for them if they have spoken and said that and added that to their list of fetishes. When establishing personal kinks and fetishes, understand that kinks and fetishes are different. Also, someone's fetishes could be someone's kinks, and someone's kinks can be someone's fetishes, but these are not the same term. Even though in general speaking, when it comes down to BDSM and kink and the lifestyle as a whole in its entirety, some people just generalize them both as the same, which I don't, because some limits are not the equivalent to fetishes. Although they could be considered or be called fetishes, they may not be what the actual definition of a fetish is. It may not be the defining factor for someone. For example, I love kissing my primary partner. I love making out with them on the mouth. Tongue kissing, saliva swapping, lips sucking.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on, guys.
All of that. But I have limitations on being kissed by anybody else. Like that's a hard limit for me as far as that is concerned. Kissing on the mouth, open mouth kissing, tongue kissing, saliva swapping, that is a hard limit with everybody else outside of my primary partner. But I do have a kink for being kissed on other parts of my body. Those things turn me on. Does that make sense what I just said? So a fetish with my primary partner would be tongue kissing, saliva swapping, all of that, right? But a kink would be being kissed on other parts of my body outside of my mouth, and that is very specific to people outside of my primary partnership, right? Even though my primary partner can also kiss me on parts of my body, I'm more open with being kissed all over with my primary than I am with someone who's not my primary. They could kiss me on my hand, they can kiss me on my feet, they can kiss me on my arm, they can kiss me on my breast, but I'm not open and privy to them kissing me on my mouth, especially open mouth kissing. I'm not into that.
Oh, okay.
Some simple, like if you have a difficulty in establishing what are turn-ons for you, and I've never had a kinky exchange with someone. I've never had an impact play session. I've never had any form of like BDSM or power exchange with someone. So I don't even know what to expect. Like, how do I even establish my turn-ons? Well, certain turn-ons are very simple or very non-kinky, non-kink based, if you will, like kissing or rubbing or hugging or cuddling or, scratching a little bit. That may be a little kinky for some people, but some people do like the nails being dug into their skin outside of the kinky bedroom or the kinky dungeon or play space in that way. And they're like, oh yeah, me and my ex-partner used to, scratch each other. We used to have primal exchanges. And that may be something that is not considered kinky for them. And that may be a turn on. That is your list of kinks. That is your turn-ons. If you don't want to call it your list of kinks, you can call it your list of turn-ons. And if you don't want to call it your list of fetishes, you can call it your extreme turn-ons, your orgasmic turn-ons, your orgasmic pleasures, whatever you want to name it. Just know when it's time to identify what is what, you're able to convey that with your potential play partners. Also, I want to make sure that this is clear too, that not every exchange, whether it's a kink, limit, or fetish, is sex related. Like I said, of the worshiping of feet isn't necessarily sex related. It may give someone arousal, it may arouse them or stimulate them sexually, but it may not be something sexual for someone else. It may just be a pleasurable experience, maybe like a back massage if they get their feet rubbed. Massages and rubs don't always equate or lead to sex. Contrary to what the Netflix and chill propaganda promotes, massages and body rubs are not always the predecessor or the pre-gaming for sexual intercourse. It may just be body rub exchange. It may just want to make somebody feel good, get them to a point of feeling good and feeling pleasured, you know, without any sexual connection. Also, an important note that I want to make sure that I share with you guys. Both people could have very minor or limited experience on something that both are open to explore. That's wonderful. Now you found someone on your level, you know. If you're like, hey, I've never been spanked before, and this person's like, hey, I've never spanked anyone before, but I've always been interested in it. Are you interested in being spanked? And they're like, yeah, I just never done it. It's important to, you know, test the waters and test the ropes by checking in and starting at a mutual and neutral place of play. Meaning, don't start with something extreme like a whip. You know, no, let's learn what each implement is, which each implement can do, the potentials of this implement, learning the weight of this implement, learning the materials that it was made out of. Some people, this is rubber. Some people may have an allergic reaction to rubber touching their skin. So now we can't use that. We should use some wood. It's a paddle. These are two different implements. But if we're trying, that's the first thing we start off with. We start off with establishing if this is something that we are both open to using. If one person says, hey, I'm allergic to the rubber, okay, well, let's throw that out. We're still on the journey to exploring impact play. So let's try this wooden paddle. This wooden paddle can be intense for people depending on how heavy it is used against their skin, depending on the level of impact that it is impacting, right? So for me, the way that I do it as a D-type or Dom, I usually have them take it with their own hand, hit it like this. I have an idea, use it like this, use it on their skin. They may hit it on their backside. And, you know, oh, well, that's not too bad. Let me go a little bit harder. Yeah, maybe just a little bit. And then they hand it to you. Hey, I want you to use this on me. I would like for you to use this particular impact toy on me, right? And you say, okay, awesome. Where would you like for me to use it on? Like, where on your body would you like for me to use it on? Also, side note, there are no-go areas when it comes to impact. So that is important for you guys to mutually research and learn. Well, I may discuss that in another class and course of areas to avoid during certain types of play, more specifically impact play, because there are areas that could cause very bodily damage and deadly harm to someone's body. Hitting someone on their back with this particular wooden paddle could affect their kidneys or certain internal organs that are located there. Their spine, for example. You want to avoid certain areas that are bony. You don't want to hit somebody on their elbow. This, like, it may not feel like I'm doing too much to myself, but an extreme whack could definitely cause nerve damage. So you want to be mindful of the safety protocols to each implement that you are considering with your potential play partner. Even if it's something that you guys have not, explored together or explored at all in your, history or experience of exploring, it is important for us to get familiar, get better acquainted with our implements and with our toys. This is a toy, this is an adult toy, so when we're using these particular adult toys, don't toys for adolescents usually come with like directions, whether it's like, we need these types of batteries, stay away from water, you have to charge it before you play with it, or any of that. These are kind of the same, even though not all toys come with instructions and directions. It's better to have an understanding of the material that is used so you can know how better to care for it. This may not be something that you can submerge in water. It may not be something that you can use with certain other like chemicals or materials, like, putting oil on someone's body may cause damage to the material that you're using against their body. So, you want to kind of have an idea. Like, I know for a fact that when I'm using like my leather floggers, that once there's oil on someone's butt, that transfers to my floggers and leaves stains. And it's very difficult for me to wash that off and like sanitize it and clean it for the next go. So I'm more aware of these things. Sometimes, like I said, we learn through trial and error. We learn from our mistakes. That's fine. But that's what our lists are for. Once y'all go home and I'm like, yeah, I don't like what this paddle looks like now, that I used it. And it had silicone lube left stains on here, or whatever the case may be, their lotion left stains on here. Then I'll now know to put it on my list. Hey, anytime I'm using this if I'm using this paddle on you, if you decide that you want me to use this on you, do you have any lotions on that may cause staining to my toy? If so, if we want to participate in this, if you consent to participating in this, I would like for you to, can you wipe or wash that off? If we're discussing the use of other, alternative creams or lotions or moisturizers prior to seeing, then maybe putting that in as a request prior to actually meeting up, so you don't have to say, hey, did you put this on? You can say, hey, if you want me to use this on you, just be aware that, certain creams or lotions or moisturizers cause damage to this particular material. So, maybe you could withhold using that during this particular time or this particular exchange. Another example would be food fetishes. People have fetishes on with specific types of food. It may be an oral fixation of like pickles and carrots and more phallic appearing food items. And that could possibly be something that is sexual for some people, but it also just may be something that is, like I said, pleasurable, that makes them feel good. Some people like to watch other people eat, and that's enjoyable to them. It brings them pleasure. The reason why these are important is because I recently wrote an article about asexuality, and asexuality is someone who doesn't find people sexually attractive. This doesn't limit them from finding someone attractive. It's just not sexually attractive. So sex is pretty much just like off limits, right? But they still enjoy romance. They still enjoy other types of intimacy, maybe cuddling, maybe hugs, those are different ways that humans exchange without it leading to sex. Same as I mentioned earlier with body rubs and massages and foot rubs and, scalp massages. Because, baby, let me tell you, not gonna lie, although scalp massages may not always be sexual for someone else, a good scalp massage may make me orgasm. It's important that when we are discussing and having these exchanges with potential play partners that we are aware that we should not kink shame. Although there are some kinks that may be foreign to us, that may be obscure, that may, have you like, what the fuck did you just say you into? It may have you feeling that way internally, but also understand something as simple as a foot fetish could literally have somebody looking at you like that. To me, it's simple. Like I said, it may not be simple to someone else. It may be something that is like, you like playing with people's feet? You like smelling toes and licking arches and heel? Like, that's what?
Ew. Respectfully.
That's, now how comfortable would that person feel and vulnerable would that person feel with further exchanging this list with you, right? I've mentioned 2 things and then I'm on the list of, oh yeah, I like feet fetishes. Oh, that's disgusting. You like feet? You like feet? What? And now this person is like, I'm not going to go on expressing the rest of the things that are on my list because they have just made me uncomfortable and it's an awkward moment now. Like I said, there are things that may be unethical or that are considered unethical. Bestiality, the list can go on, like I said. But those are things that if someone exchanges that information to you as well, like, I like this particular thing, and you're like, that sounds pretty unethical, you can express that, like, hey, do you know and understand the lack of ethics behind that? Like, what is it about that you feel like, you are able and capable of being able to do that? And let them down easy, even though some people maybe feel like shame, and I understand that, but also understand that you don't have to associate with this person. This is why the negotiation process is important. We'll have more information, and I'll discuss more into the negotiation process with other people, with potential partners, in my next class. This one is about self-negotiation, but I'm just wanting to touch bases on when you are establishing this self-negotiation for yourself, the possibility of someone body shaming you. I really hope that it is very rare, or it doesn't happen or occur ever. But the possibility of that may happening. I just want you to be open to the fact that could be a potential possibility when you're sharing your kinks and your limits with other people. Hopefully you're discussing these with people who are more open-minded, not judgmental. You kind of get a feeling of their energy. You kind of read their energy, like, they're giving off really positive vibes. Let's see where this goes. But sometimes we have a hit or miss. So just be aware, be cautious. Don't take it personal. We all have our own life's experiences, and there are other people in the world that are willing to have these exchanges with us. We don't have to be subjected or force ourselves into molding into what this particular person may like or not like. Even if you're like, oh, this person's really sexy, this person's really hot, I really want to do these things with them. If they say no means fucking no. If they say they're not into it, if that's a limit, if any of those different things that they're like raving that red flag, respect that, because you would want somebody to do the same for you. One thing we also understand within this lifestyle is a lot of what we do and what we practice within, this lifestyle are not publicly discussed. Even like, when you have things that turn you on and arouse you, we don't just openly discuss this with random people on the street. You're not sitting at a bus stop with someone like, hey, I like my feet worshipped. Like, that's not the same as discussing, oh, I like lasagna over spaghetti. Like, that's two different types of levels of conversation and communication with others. So we respect the boundaries and the spaces that we create for this. Creating a safe space for someone to openly discuss and be vulnerable with you in that moment is imperative. So making sure that you're comfortable as well should be a part of your self-negotiation. What space would I be more comfortable with sharing my list with someone? Is it virtually? Is it over the phone? Is it in person? And if it is in person, should we do this at my house, or at a intimate spot at the park, at a possible, play party or dungeon space where you can go into a private room and say, hey, I like my feet worshipped. Do you like feet fetishes? Like, do you have a foot fetish? Do you have a foot kink? How are you feeling about this? That gives us that, and then making sure that they feel comfortable too. But that gives us the opportunity to feel comfortable and feel confident in being able to share what we've listed on our list. So as I was mentioning, the possibility of being shamed or guilted for liking what you like, own it. That is a great way to practice confidence, a great way to stand firm in what you believe in. Own it. Even if it's something that someone, finds repulsive. There are brown showers and golden showers. There's all different types of showers. There's different types of kinks that involve different types of bodily fluids, or different types of acts, whether it's a woman topping a man or a man crawling on all fours with a leash around them. There's so many different styles and kinks and interests and acts that someone could enjoy. and another person can find very repulsive, unethical, dehumanizing. It's so many reasons why people don't like things. It may have been a prior experience that they were like, yeah, I used to like, my feet worship, but then somebody bit my toe and I'm now like traumatized behind that. That's understandable. I respect that. I appreciate you even sharing that information with me. You didn't have to tell me why you weren't in it. But sharing that information puts things in perspective for me. It helps me feel more connected to you, and now I feel a little bit more comfortable with sharing and divulging what it is that I like and what it is that I'm into and the things that I'm not into. So that holding space for room for all parties involved to be able to be expressive, be vocal, be transparent, be vulnerable with potential play partners is always an added plus when we own it. It's an added plus to create those safe spaces when you're like, yeah, I like my feet sucked. I like my toes sucked. I like my feet worshipped. And you don't like it? That's fine. We don't have to discuss it anymore, but that is something that I definitely am into. And, like I said, if that person starts to shame, you can give them the deuces and you can get the fuck.
Good night.
Let's just try to alleviate problems that may escalate to, aggression or violence. So we're trying to avoid that by making sure that we vet people in proper ways and ways that feel more comfortable for you to feel more comfortable being yourself, with them or around them. Self-reflection are great motivators for being able to establish what it is that you like and what you don't like. So, when you're reflecting on your past experiences and what you've been through, so on and so forth, a great way to find comfort in knowing and find confidence in knowing what it is that you like and what you don't like is reflecting on self, reflecting internally, mentally, emotionally, physically. Connect with yourself. Sometimes it's okay for us to pinch ourselves and say, oh yeah, not liking pinching, or my parent used to tickle the hell out of me. My dad used to tickle the hell out of me, and I don't like being tickled, or I'm not ticklish at all. It's just annoying for somebody to try to tickle me. These are things that you can establish, to prepare yourself when you're meeting, potential play partners and potential partners overall. Although establishing kinks, limits, and fetishes for yourself can seem a bit tedious and extensive, it's important. It's like having all of the ingredients to a recipe that you want to cook because you have the craving for it, you have a hankering for it. And what if I wanted to make cookies? I love chocolate chip cookies, right? And I don't have any flour. That's one of the main ingredients to making cookies. You can look online and find alternatives to the flour because you don't have it, but it may not turn out exactly how you would like for it. You have a taste for it. You've made these cookies before with the flour when you've had it. So how important are these cookies to you? Do you feel like, hey, you know what, maybe I should table this until I actually have all of the ingredients, or maybe I should go get it now because I really, really want this. So let me establish this now. It's the same when it comes to establishing these lists for yourself. How much time you take on this is depending upon yourself and your experiences and what you desire. But don't rush it. Don't rush it with the expectation to have a successful exchange with someone. Expectations may lead to disappointments. So just keep that in mind. When you are establishing your list, think about these lists being something personal and sacred for you. You don't have to take it everywhere, but it's important. My list is on my phone. So anytime I may possibly meet someone at a bar, a club, a party, a dungeon, online, anywhere, I'll say, what's your list? What things are you into? They can just give me a quick runoff of a few things that may be on their list, or they can just give me their list. They don't have to give me an actual list. They can list things. Oh, I love kissing. I love touching. I love hugging. I love these types of things. What are things that you don't like? And that's just as simple as it is. But sometimes it's easier to establish these things once you've had a list made. Then you can just run it off. Like I said, my list is pretty extensive, so it's important for me to keep that list and maintain it. Things change, I update it, I take things off, I add things, I add more things, you know, I decorate it, I make sure that it's legible for people to be able to read and understand. All of those things are important to me when I'm establishing my list, so I won't have any miscommunication or misunderstanding as to what it is that I'm actually into and not into. It's also important for me to express what it is and like what levels of the turn-ons that I like have, or if there are kinks, or if there are fetishes, if there are soft limits, if there are hard limits. That like actually creating a list helps be able to establish those things for people to have a better understanding. Whether you do that, you know, like you write it down, like I said, you legibly write it down, you type it, whether you create it on like Canva or Photoshop or something, and you want to add little colors to it and color code it. If you are detailed like that, because trust me, I've seen some lists, but if you're detailed like that and you feel like that may be helpful for people that, you know, you're wanting to have an intimate exchange with, or some type of exchange with, regardless of it being part of the lifestyle or just being more of a personal vanilla exchange, then you do that. And like I said earlier, you own it. Okay, and I put my, you know, my LGBT flag colors on there because I wanted you to also be aware that I'm queer. So this doesn't just apply to a binary exchange. It may be me playing with someone who's trans or who's non-binary or who's someone who's asexual. It's important, or you know, for us to have a bit of an understanding of who we are. You can also list on your list that you're demisexual, that you're polyamorous, you're a switch, you're a dom, you a top, you bot. Like you could put all of that on your list and have those details drawn out and laid out for someone so they can have a better understanding of like who they may be getting themselves intertwined with, or may not be getting themselves intertwined with because it doesn't align, and it is okay. Why wait until the last minute? Why wait until after we've gotten into the bedroom or the private space or the private area, you know? And sometimes that, you know, that happens too. You go to a space and you're like, yeah, I'm not really into that. Okay, that's fine. What are you into? Before we even like get to anywhere, you may try to kiss me and I'm like, I'm not really into kissing. Like I said that earlier, I'm not really into the mouth kissing. It's important for me to express these things. I know a lot of people may think, oh wow, she's pretty forward. So that's confidence. It's not aggression. It's literal confidence, and having confidence in the autonomy of your body and having that responsibility to the autonomy of your body, being able to advocate for yourself. It's very rare in today's society because a lot of society wants you to play a guessing game for some reason. They want you to guess or assume what a person likes, or assume that this person likes the same things that you're into. When we're all individuals created in our own individual, unique ways, even though there are certain similarities that may align, which is why we have that list, to find out what aligns with us. Oh, you like feet, I like feet. Oh, we're liking feet together. We have an alignment. There's some sort of chemistry. There's some sort of similarities in our interests, which are cool. You know, same way, like I said, when it comes down to dating. When you're dating someone, you say, oh, what kind of music do you listen to? I listen to reggae. I love reggae. Something's aligning. When we have interests as humans, it is important for us to stand tall when expressing our interest and lack of interest. That is really important too. Those boundaries, I think that's really important. The turn-ons, people roll those off the tongue. Oh, I like kissing. Oh, I like this. I like spaghetti. They roll them off the tongue fast. But boundaries, some people are not aware of what a boundary is because they have not been able to self-negotiate and have that conversation with themselves of what it is that they like, what is it that turns them on, what is that they don't like. And knowing, okay, yeah, I really don't like this, you know, asking themselves why, that's their choice, but they don't have to tell you why they don't like something. It's okay for someone to say, I don't like this. And you just respect that in its entirety. Not, but why don't you like it? So you don't like it at all? Not even a little bit? Not even if I did it a different way? What if I did it with my eyes closed? Like any of those different things is more so pushing at someone's limits and tugging. And it can be very awkward and annoying and very unethical and very disrespectful. Just overall disrespecting someone's personal space and the sacredness to their autonomy that we all deserve. So I wanted to make sure I added that at the end so you guys can understand just why self-negotiation is important. It is the foundation to who you are. And it's not just, like I said, limited to what we're talking about now. Self-negotiate things that you want to do, that you like to do. If you like going hiking, add that to your list of like things that you like. You know, when they say, so what are you into? What are your hobbies? That's a list of hobbies is just like the list of interests. It's of your kinks. Like it's things that brings you pleasure, that make you happy, that bring you joy, that satisfy you in some form of fashion, that is gives you a gratifying feeling. And no matter what part of our lives that we establish those things in, it's still a part of who we are. And it's fair to ourselves to be able to give ourselves that space and that opportunity to determine it for ourselves. Don't let the world determine that for you. Don't let someone else speak and try to advocate for you when they know nothing about you at all. They don't know nothing about your experiences, your traumas, what triggers you, or any of that until you share that with them. That is, your responsibility. So all in all, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this lesson, this lecture on self-negotiation. Next time, we're going to be discussing negotiation with potential play partners and having those different exchanges. But I wanted to get this one out the way first because this one is very vital. Before we even negotiate with partners, what it is that we like and we don't like, we need to know what that is for ourselves. Peace. I'm Madam Carmen. Till next time.